I'm Lorrie with Far West Garden Center, and today we're going to be potting up a perennial pollinator pot. So when you first, obviously you find your pot, and then I like to fill the pot with bark mulch just so that the pot's lighter rather than having the heaviness of the soil. Just like with any pot, whether it's annuals or perennials, you're going to usually, it looks best if you choose thrillers that are tall, fillers that kind of fill the middle ground, and then spillers that come out the front. Now the thriller I've chosen for today is a Monarda, which is bee balm. This one is coral reef bee balm, and it will be 3 to 4 feet tall. All right, so what I've done is, like I said, I put the bark in the bottom. Now I put in a little bit of Garden Coat, which is a time-release fertilizer. When you feed a perennial container, you're going to feed it differently than you would an annual container. As an annual, whole purpose is to make babies. It wants to make flowers so that there's a seed pod afterward. Just like on an apple tree, there's the flower and then comes the seed pod, which is the fruit. What we do with annuals, you're continually deadheading them so that they won't realize that they've made flowers, so that they'll keep trying to push seed. We can feed them really heavily because they're only doing it 1 year. It's okay to tire them out because they're sprinters, not marathoners. But when you're planting and feeding perennials, you're in it for the long haul and you want them to last a long time. I like to use fish fertilizer. And we also have this True Organic, which is another great product. And you mix it with water and you're gonna water it in. At most weekly, and you could even do it as seldom as monthly, it's up to you. But it's a real gentle way to feed the plant, and you're building into the plant rather than trying to push it to just produce. So we already talked about Monarda bee balm. When you shake it out of the can, this is a great plant. It's not root bound, but if it were, I would go ahead and loosen the roots a little bit. You don't want the roots to get in such a habit that they're wrapping around the pot, and you let them do that. And you just dig it in. They're not really established yet, so it's okay if you mess with them a few times. Just be gentle. Then the middle, I've chosen Agastache. This is Kudos Coral Hummingbird Mint. Agastache, or also known as hyssop. Another great perennial pollinators, hummingbirds, honeybees love it. Both of these plants have amazing smelling foliage too. So when the wind comes, you get to smell it. I'm putting in the middle and making a little mess while I do it. As these grow, you may find next year there's more plants than I need in here, and you can get 2 pots out of it. Divide it up or put some in the yard. On the sides, I'm putting Thumbelina Lee lavender. This one's only going to be about 1 foot by 1 foot, but it's going to kind of be a nice side filler. All these are fairly drought tolerant plants too once they get established, so don't need to overwater them. Put this lavender down in here, and then another one. All these plants actually have the same benefits in your yard, so whether you're putting them in a pot or not. I mean, some people say I can't have a pollinator garden because I don't have a yard, but you could have a pollinator garden just in a pot. But you could also take them out and put them in your yard. I just like to teach people about how to prune lavender. You see the plant here, and then you see the wands will come up of the lavender. So when it's done blooming, you can do it right after it's done blooming or late summer, early fall. You're going to come in and give it a little haircut, and it's going to be a nice little round shape. You're going to go in, but you don't want to prune into the old wood. If you prune in the old wood, you're going to kill that part of the plant. But if you don't prune it at all and trim it back nice and neat, then that's when you get the real rangy ones that'll reach out with big branches. We either decide you're going to go with it, kind of that windswept look, or you need to replace your lavender because there's just no coming back once it's gotten woody and reaching out. Okay, now up front, I'm going to put a creeper. Now, if you put this in your yard, they can really get very creepy, but not in a scary way. This is Nepeta or Nepeta. It's catmint, and this particular one is called Chartreuse on the Loose. You see the chartreuse foliage. Again, fragrant foliage. I have a different variety of Nepeta in my yard, but it goes gangbusters, and you can barely get in there because the bees love it so much. One thing too, just to let you know, because a lot of people, they like the idea of pollinators, but the bees scare them. I just want to tell you, when I worked on that lavender farm, there were millions of bees. I mean, I think millions, a lot of bees, just covering the plants, and really maybe 6 stings the whole season, and there were hundreds of people coming through there. So I think You just have to be careful where you put your hands. That's usually when you're going to get stung. Honeybees are not aggressive. It's not like a yellow jacket. They want to get at those flowers. And if you have pollinators, they're going to be really happy and they'll leave you alone. All right, I'm going to do something that looks really horrible here. So if you see, I'm trying to cram this gallon pot plus 2 more little 4-inch pots right in here. So I'm going to kind of just mess with the roots and try to break them up and make it so that I can fit this in the front. Notice it looks like I'm being rougher than I am. They're really pliable, and I just want to make it so it's going to be a little flatter if I can. So now I'm going to give it a shot, get this guy in here. And you're going to find that, at least if you're like me, you put in either too much soil or too little soil and you mess around with it. That's one thing I just haven't mastered yet, and that's okay. Gardening isn't about perfect, it's just about learning. You never stop learning. That's one of the great joys of gardening. So this here is the last trailer I'm using, and it is Bellissimo Ornamental Oregano. Again, fragrant foliage, and I just need to tell you it's a little known secret, and feel honored that I'm sharing it with you, because ornamental oregano is just, it's underused and underappreciated. It's beautiful. Almost a leathery texture on wiry stems, and then it gets little bracts that almost look like hop cones. These aren't quite open yet, but when they do, they're just lovely, and they dry beautifully. So it will eventually, if you put it in your landscape, it'll make a ground cover. Stems are, you can use them in bouquets. I used to have a spot at my last place that was about 4 feet by 10 feet, and I had intended to make a wreath the next season, and we moved, so I couldn't do that. So now I'm working on my next patch. Anyway, I'm going to tuck these in, and they're going to come out over the top and hang down. I'm going to tuck some of this dirt that I thought I didn't need and fill in the holes. There we go. And then if you're like me and you forget what variety you used, the way to avoid that is to tuck all your little tags in the back so they don't distract, but they let you know what you put in. Now when I water in, and this is for annuals or perennials, I like to use root stimulator. There's lots of different types. There's B1. We carry a great root stimulator here by Fertilize. You just mix it with water. I think it's 3.5 tablespoons per gallon, but double check the directions. I've already mixed it in here, and you water it in. And once I've started using a root stimulator, I don't have shock anymore. There's just no transplant shock. And we've got a nice mix here. If you notice, lots of different texture in the foliage, shapes in the leaves, colors. We've got the chartreuse, and I think it's pretty. I hope you enjoy it. You could do the same thing with annuals, and there's a whole nother world of plants you could do with that. I hope you have success with it and enjoy it. Thanks for watching.